Hi Phil, this is Peter, and I'm sitting backstage in Montreal, and we're doing a tour for Amnesty International, taking us all the way around the world, and that's the only excuse I have for not being with you tonight. We're very proud of you, Phil, and I remember a lot of things. I remember the fiver that I lent you in 1972, and I remember that you could play the drums a lot better than I could. Anyway, I've been very pleased to see your meteoric success and how well you've done in everything, the production, singing, writing, acting. Well, I can think of a lot of words of how I feel, but jealous, of course, isn't one of them. Anyway, I'm very pleased, and I wish you a great evening tonight, and lots of love. Bye.
In 1975, the music world was stunned by the sudden departure of Peter Gabriel from the progressive rock band Genesis at the height of their success. As the enigmatic frontman and creative force behind the group, Gabriel had been instrumental in shaping their unique sound and theatrical live performances. However, beneath the surface, personal struggles and creative differences had been simmering, leading to a decision that would forever alter the course of both Gabriel's career and the band's future. Join us as we uncover the complex web of factors that ultimately led to his departure and the final reunion that followed decades later. The rise of Genesis. In the late 60s, a group of ambitious young musicians at Charterhouse School in England began to form the core of what would become one of the most influential progressive rock bands of all time, Genesis. The founding members, including Peter Gabriel, Tony Banks, Mike Rutherford, and Anthony Phillips, were drawn together by their shared love of music and a desire to push the boundaries of what was possible in rock. As the band began to develop their unique sound, blending elements of classical music, folk, and rock, it was clear Peter Gabriel was a driving force behind their creative vision. With his powerful vocals, poetic lyrics, and flamboyant stage presence, Gabriel quickly became the face of Genesis, captivating audiences with his theatrical performances. In the early years, Genesis struggled to find their footing in the competitive music scene, but his innovative approach to live shows helped them stand out. Peter would often don elaborate costumes and makeup, transforming himself into various characters to bring the band's complex storytelling lyrics to life. From the flower-headed figure in Supper's Ready to the sinister Rael in The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, Gabriel's performances were as much a visual spectacle as they were a musical experience. As Genesis continued to tour and release albums, their fan base grew, and the band began to gain recognition for their intricate compositions and musicianship. Albums like Nursery Crime and Foxtrot showcased the band's evolving sound and Gabriel's increasingly sophisticated songwriting. Behind the scenes, Gabriel was also playing a crucial role in shaping the band's artistic direction. He was instrumental in the development of the band's concept albums, working closely with his bandmates to craft intricate narratives and themes that spanned entire records. His contributions extended beyond music, and he also had a hand in designing the band's album covers and stage sets, ensuring every aspect of their presentation was a reflection of their unique vision. As Genesis' success grew, so did Gabriel's influence within the band. His charismatic stage presence and creative vision had helped to define the band's identity, and he was widely regarded as the driving force behind their rise to prominence. But tensions were beginning to simmer beneath the surface. Cracks began to show. As Genesis embarked on their most ambitious project yet, the concept album The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, creative tensions began to simmer within the band. Peter, the mastermind behind the album's intricate story, found himself increasingly at odds with his bandmates over the direction of the music and the production of the accompanying live show. His vision for The Lamb was grand in scope, encompassing not only the music, but also a complex narrative, elaborate stage sets, and multimedia elements. He poured his heart and soul into crafting the story of Rael, a young Puerto Rican man navigating a surreal dystopian version of New York City. But as the band worked tirelessly to bring his concept to life, disagreements arose. Compounding the creative tensions were Gabriel's growing interests outside the band. As a restless artist, he found himself drawn to other forms of expression, particularly film and multimedia projects. He began to explore the possibilities of integrating these elements into their live shows, but his ideas were met with resistance from some of his bandmates.
I had been contacted by William Friedkin, who'd just done The Exorcist, which was a hot film at that time, and really well-made film. And he had great ideas for sort of revolutionizing Hollywood and bringing in whole new teams of people who'd never worked in film before. And he wanted me in to work on ideas, story ideas and visual ideas. And for me, that was really quite exciting. I mean, still to this day, something that I enjoy doing.
As the strain of the album's production and the subsequent tour took its toll, Gabriel also found himself grappling with personal challenges. During this period, his wife Jill gave birth to their first child, Anna Marie, in a difficult and traumatic delivery that nearly claimed both of their lives. This experience left Gabriel emotionally drained and questioning his priorities. Torn between his commitments to Genesis and his growing desire to explore new creative avenues and spend more time with his family, Gabriel began to feel increasingly suffocated within the confines of the band. Despite the success of The Lamb Lies Down, which would go on to be regarded as a seminal work of progressive rock, Peter knew something had to give. As the tour drew to a close, he made the difficult decision to leave Genesis, a choice that sent shockwaves through the music world and forever altered the course of both his own career and the band's future. The breaking point.
It was the time of the birth of my first child, and there was a really rough birth, and the hospital didn't think she was going to make it, and she spent first month in an incubator. Now, to me, there was no question of priorities, living being and a record, and we were in the middle of making Lamb Lies Down, so I was spending a lot of time at the hospital, and
the decision to leave was not one Gabriel made lightly. He had poured his heart and soul into Genesis for nearly a decade, and the band had become an integral part of his life and identity. In the months leading up to the announcement, he spent long hours in introspection, grappling with the weight of his decision. He thought about his family, particularly his young daughter, and the toll that his busy schedule had taken on his personal life. And his creative restlessness had reached a fever pitch. He felt increasingly stifled with the confines of the band, yearning to explore new artistic avenues and push the boundaries of what was possible in music and performance. The idea of embarking on a solo career became increasingly appealing. As he began to confide in his bandmates about his intentions, they were initially shocked and dismayed. They had always seen Gabriel as the heart and soul of Genesis, and the thought of continuing without him seemed almost impossible. They tried to convince him to stay, offering compromises and concessions in an effort to keep the band together. But Gabriel's mind was made up. In a heartfelt statement, he explained his decision to his bandmates and the world, emphasizing his need to focus on his family and personal growth. Quote, "I guess it was somewhere around summer, autumn '74, that when I decided to quit. That was very hard, but it was definitely the right thing for me to have done. Clearly, it was good for them because it sort of brought Phil out front and gave everyone a little bit more space, I think. I always look upon that time as a healthy part of growing up." The news of his departure sent shockwaves through the industry and left fans reeling. Many wondered how Genesis could possibly continue without their charismatic frontman. As Peter stepped away from the band, he did so with a mix of sadness and anticipation, knowing he was closing one chapter of his life but opening the door to countless new possibilities. A bittersweet reunion. As Genesis prepared to take the stage for their final concert in March 2022, fans were buzzing. The band had announced their The Last Domino tour as a farewell to their illustrious career, and the anticipation was palpable. But there was one question on everyone's mind. Would Peter Gabriel make an appearance? The relationship between Gabriel and his former bandmates had been the subject of much speculation over the years. While they had maintained a cordial rapport, there were lingering questions about the circumstances surrounding his departure. When the night of the concert finally arrived, the atmosphere was electric. Fans from all over the world had gathered to witness the end of an era, and the band delivered a powerful and emotional performance. To the surprise and delight of everyone in attendance, Gabriel did indeed make an appearance, but not on stage. Instead, he watched from the audience, a symbolic gesture that spoke volumes about his respect for his former bandmates. Quote, "Me going was a rite of passage, really," the Sledgehammer icon explained. "I'd been part of the creation of Genesis, so I wanted to be there at the end." Now it's time to hear from you. If Genesis were to release a new album featuring both Peter and Phil Collins on vocals, what do you think it would sound like? Let us know in the comments section below.